So if we're in a room full of high school athletes and we ask the question, how many want scholarships? How many gonna raise their hand?
Everybody and their mama.
If we're in a room full of trainers and we ask who all wants their own facility, what do you think?
Everybody.
Everybody.
Right.
So leading into trainers and us being in that position of when we wanted our facility, I say being careful what you ask for because you just might get it.
It's true.
And our transition from having to start the business and renting courts all over the city and being here and being there and actually having to make that investment and it's a risk when you rent a court because you don't know how many athletes you're going to have, if it's going to be worth the court rental or even doing a camp.
Mm-hmm.
When we would rent courts doing camps, we don't know how many are going to show up for the camp, and you don't rented the court out for the whole week of the camp, the summer camp. It's all a risk. And then after being at that level for a certain period of time, however long that is, when you're like, man, I want my own facility, you start getting that itch. You're like, I'm tired of renting these courts. I want to have my own facility.
Right.
And just speak a little bit about your perception of our journey going from renting rec centers and churches and then getting our own facility.
Man, it was unique, but it was one of those things where, you know, it was necessary because sometimes you have to experience something to know that, you know, this is not the way that you want to do business. So, you know, initially we talked about, you know, the vision of our business, the vision of Kingdom Performance and us having our own space, but it's a process, right? You can't just jump the gun and have your own space. You have to prove the concept prior to. So the way we were doing business before, as far as renting out courts, we had a gym in Plano, a gym in McKinney, one in Dallas, you know, every other day. It wasn't consistent. It was really hard to really scale the business in the way that we wanted to scale it, right? Mm-hmm. Because, you know, you're talking about the elevator pitch and, you know, meeting new clients and, you know, trying to grow, you know, your clientele. You know, somebody asks you, hey, what day are you training? What time are you training? What location are you training at? And every day is different. It's hard to pitch it in a smooth, concise way. So after years of that, of having to try to explain kind of our organization and where we were conducting training and for what time, it just became kind of redundant and harder to really get it to the level that we wanted to get it to. So I remember us, you know, having conversations after, you know, we would rent out Spring Creek Church, you know, late at night, and talking about, man, we need our own spot, man. We need to be able to, you know, stay in here as long as we need to stay in here, come as early as we need to, have a place where athletes can access us whenever they want to, and it not be so cut and dry. Like, you have to be on the court at this time, you have to be off at this time, right? You can't brand the space and design the space in the way that you want to be able to do it. So going through that process, you know, was frustrating, but I think it was necessary for us to get to where we had to get to as far as having our own brick and mortar, right? So we did, you know, rented out churches and rec centers for, you know, 5 years, about that 5 years. And it was a blessing that we were able to link up with Landmark Fitness Club. You know,
and it was just a phone call out of the blue.
It was a phone call.
We were on that mindset of wanting our own facility. We were actually, I had moved into an apartment and rented that apartment,
right,
because it had a basketball court. So that was our first step into having like a court of our own, because we utilized the apartment complex's basketball court, and then really outgrew that because we started having too many cars at the apartment complex because everybody was coming in. And so we got that phone call out of the blue from the present manager at Landmark, who they had their court and it wasn't being utilized as much. And so they were just calling basketball organizations to see if they wanted to rent the court. And so they ended up calling us, and we went and checked it out. And we actually have a video of that. And it was a huge step because I think they were talking about $1,200 a month.
And that wasn't even for every day, right?
Right, that wasn't for every day.
There was another trainer in there, and I think we still only were able to get like 3 days. So
Right.
It wasn't one space that we can have 5 to 6 to 7 days a week
Right.
at our leisure. So they offered those couple of days to us.
It was a couple of days, but it was guaranteed. The space was nice.
Right.
You're walking into the Westin Hotel, walking on marble floors, we used to say,
right,
and get in the elevator and go up to the court. And it was just, it was just a good look. It was amazing. And it was a challenge mentally and on our faith because, like I said, it was a $1,200 a month deal that we would have to pay as far as, monthly rental. Whereas we were actually at that time with all of our courts and locations that we rented out, we were paying, I think, probably about $700,
like 40 here, 50 there,
right?
Yeah,
$700 a month. So then jumping up to $1,200 a month, it was a big step.
Seemed like a lot at the time, right?
It seemed like a lot, exactly. Seemed like a lot, and we had to think about it, but we knew we had to do it. And the other scary part was that meant that we were going to have to let all of our other locations, being in McKinney, Plano, Allen, Carrollton, all the courts that we rented out for years, we were going to have to, and we were known for those locations and courts. We had to let those go and try to get everybody going to Landmark, which is off of 635 and Coit,
in a hidden gym that you couldn't see from the outside.
In a
hotel. You would never know it was a facility in there.
Right. So we had to, step out on faith at that time and, do it.
Yeah,
which we did.
We did, and the cool thing about that is we understood that this was the only way to get to the next step, right? Taking that faith step of saying, you know what, we're going to step out here and we're going to make this transition. This is going to get us one step closer to our ultimate, which is having our own turnkey operation, right? So having those 3 days at Landmark, and then us eventually talking to the owner and him saying, you know what, we'll do a master lease with you. We were like, what's a master lease? And we didn't know, we never heard that term before. He was like, well, that's where you have access, pretty much whenever you want 7 days a week for $2,500.
Yeah. So then there was a whole nother jump.
There was a whole nother jump as far as financial.
That was after how many years?
That wasn't that long. Like I think we had got in there in the fall. So I think we got in there right as summer was winding down, and he offered that to us towards the end of the year, because remember we did that grand open video after the first of the year. So this was probably around like November, December-ish, where he was like,
and this is 2016 or 17
or something like that. Yeah. And he was like, we can do a master lease. And we were like, let's go. We like, can we put our logos on the wall and make it our own? He was like, man, have at it. Right. And so being able to have that space consistently really helped us prove the concept, right? Because we never did it before. We had an idea of what it would be like to have a space where athletes can come unlimited, right? Because nobody was offering that type of structure. It was always a day here, a day there, and it was never, every day. And so we knew that was the recipe for success for our players, being able to come consistently to develop their skills, and also for our business to be able to pitch it to people, new athletes, new parents, saying, hey, we offer training this day, these days, these times, come whenever you want. And that come whenever you want, format I think is always an easy way to get new people in the doors.
And that was when we implemented the train as much as you want. We call all you can eat.
Yeah, all you can eat, the unlimited package, like come get it in whenever you can.
Right. So that's when we started that. Then we were able, because of that, to scale our business even more and do the teams. So that's when we initiated or implemented the teams.
Well, we already had the teams. Remember that. We already had the teams going into that, right, we had our teams training every day. So we had never added that aspect to the teams. We
Yeah.
were just doing the 2 practices a week.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We hadn't had any type of academy consistently where they could train on top of their practices, on top of their games. So once we were able to offer that to our team players, it kind of broke it open, right? And I remember us, being on that small court because it wasn't a full-size court. Small space, had the catwalk for parents to sit above. And there was that racquetball room that had like some CrossFit equipment in there that another trainer had in there that he left. And with us going to the owner, it was like, man, we can make this a court, right? And it was right next to his office. And I had to go in there and convince him that it wouldn't be a disturbance or hindrance to what he was doing, but that we needed the additional space for shooting, one-on-ones, ball handling, stuff like that. So we turned the racquetball room into another court.
Right. Yep.
It was just crazy, like to be in that space and try to figure out what's the next step for us to continue to, hone in our craft and our business to continue to move forward.
And it's wherever we always went, we would always grow. We would always outgrow the space.
Yeah.
Be it if we're just renting a court, more athletes would show up every week.
Right.
And we'd outgrow that space, and then we'd try and find another court or try and get more hours or court rental. And so at Landmark, with us being there for 3 to 4 years, yeah, pretty much 4 years, we outgrew that space. And, thinking about other trainers and how right at the tail end of us being at Landmark, we started building relationships with other trainers who wanted to rent the court from us. Remember, that was a big deal, that we were like, man, people are coming to us wanting to rent courts, because we had all 7 days now. So, and that was a big thing with Jack. He was, you can't be renting the court out and I'm renting out to you.
We're leasing to you. You
Right.
can't lease to somebody else.
And so that was a time of growth.
Right.
But we didn't realize it at that time, of other trainers coming and wanting to rent the court from us. And so that really opened our eyes. So long story short, with us being at Landmark for 4 years, outgrowing that space with everything that we were doing, starting nonprofits, all that stuff. And then Jack selling the facility to someone else.
Yeah, right. So prior to that, so here's a question. When you outgrow a space, what do you do? Like, what do you do when you outgrow a space? Do you say, all right, I'm going to look for another space in a market that's, hot and expensive? Or do I try to reconstruct the space that I have to fit the growth of my business? Right. I think that's the question. I think that people
initially
have.
That's what you do, is reconstruct the space,
and that's what we try to do. So talk about what we were trying to do with the facility and buy it from Jack and the roof. Talk about that vision that we had.
So we outgrew the space to such a degree that every training session every day was full. We even had to spill over into the racquetball courts, converting the racquetball courts into training areas.
Spill over into the parking garage.
Then go in the parking garage. then we talked to Jack, and we said, we found out that they used to have tennis courts on the roof.
Yeah. So
then we start making them run the stairs, and then which the stairs led to the roof. Then we start training on the roof.
Yeah.
So we always learned how to maximize whatever space we were in. And, we gave Jack a lot of headaches, I know, but he saw our growth. And how much we were just growing and learning our business and, maximizing everything that we had. So I think that's the first step. Once you realize, okay, I'm outgrowing this space, let me try to manipulate
and manufacture
and move around and create other training areas.
Right.
And, just in me talking now, I'm just thinking about other trainers in this location here. that are growing, and especially during AAU season when everybody's rocking and the facility is packed, and other trainers, I mean, other organizations have more athletes than they do court space,
Mm-hmm.
and how they're spilling over, and we try to help them with that,
Right.
and give them, give them the leeway to expand their business, but it costs,
Right.
Um, and that's what it was at Landmark. We were willing to pay more for more
There you
space
go.
and more areas.
Yeah. That's good.
And you have to understand the business is a business.
Yeah.
So whoever you're leasing the space from, it's real estate. So you got to pay more for more real estate.
That's good, Rod.
And that's the way
That's good, man.
you
And
manipulate
that's
it.
good, man. And I want you to keep going down that road because that's good information. Because I think a lot of people think that you're in the basketball training business.
Mhm.
That's one component, but no, you're in the real estate business. You need the space to conduct your operations. The same thing with Starbucks and McDonald's. Like, yeah, they sell coffee, they sell Big Macs, but they own the real estate.
Mhm.
So they're real estate companies as well as training companies. So
Mhm.
it's the same type of, I think, philosophy when it comes on the basketball side is that space equals opportunity and that space costs in order for you to scale and grow your operation.
Right. And sometimes you have to pay for the space before you have the clientele to fill up.
Mm-hmm. In good faith.
And that's what a lot of trainers really, I don't think, realize. That's what we used to always do is, hey, once we found a location, we're locking down the courts.
Yeah.
We're paying for 30 days out.
A month out. Yeah.
So we don't have to worry about
Mhm.
anybody coming in, getting our court time, and just cuts all that worry out of the picture.
Right.
And, with Landmark, even though, the blessing was we were able to grow into other areas, but then try to think ahead, trying to get courts up on the tennis court,
Mhm.
researching that. There's a lot of research. We did a lot of research,
Yeah.
and a lot of getting quotes from
Mhm.
people that do courts and all that stuff, trying to come up with different ways.
Yeah, thinking ahead.
Yeah. And so, fast forwarding to this space, Kingdom Performance that we're at now, when we went from Landmark paying $1,200 initially,
Mhm.
then $2,500, and now we step up to the big boy, the big time.
Yeah, but and the thing is, the big boy was something that we, of course, always kind of had in the back of our mind. We knew, okay, we can't buy this building here at Landmark and convert it in the way that we wanted to.
And we didn't have Jack wouldn't give us the keys. We didn't have 24-hour access.
We didn't have 24-hour access, so we were still limited even in that, partnership.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, here's another option. If we can't buy this facility because it's not going to make sense long term, then we need to start looking for something else. So we've always kind of had our eye on the market and looking for different spaces, right? So you were in the office, so you got to talk about this. So talk about that fourth year, right? We're gearing up for AAU season. It's like March, right? We already handed out our uniforms for the season and getting rolling, and a knock on the door happens. Talk about that knock and what was stated.
When Jack told us.
When Jack said, because again, our mind, like we had it in our mind that we were eventually going to step out and move forward.
Right.
But it wasn't in that present day, in that present time.
We weren't ready to leave.
We weren't ready to leave.
We weren't thinking about leaving.
So then, talk about that knock on the door that kind of forced us.
So then Jack told us that he made a deal with Ollie, who was there, to sell the facility.
Jack and Ollie.
Yeah, to sell the facility to him. And we had 30 days to leave.
Mm-hmm.
So we had 30 days with our business going full speed. Just stepped into AAU season. We got, 8 teams?
Probably like six teams. I think
six to 7 teams going full throttle. And so then we had to pivot and find the space within 30 days. And all the while still doing training, still doing practices, and running the business. And so that was a challenge. That was, because you're not just, and it's our brand, it's our ego, it's our brand. It's like, okay, what if we don't find a space?
Right.
What are we going to do? So then what we did was we had to take down all of our investment of signage and goals and everything else, got out of the space. Before we found a space, we actually went back to Spring Creek Church where we used to train, rented that court out for the month, went back to that, and then just by the grace of God, found this location after driving around every day for about 2 weeks, not knowing, getting turned down because we're a sports related business. And, these warehouses, these corporations that own these warehouses don't want to rent to sports related businesses. So it was just a trying time. And by the grace of God, found this location and was able to train at the church with our teams and our academy while we were getting this built out. And it was like to the person from outside looking in, it was like a smooth transition.
They had no idea what we were going through.
Exactly.
Right. And we didn't miss a beat. And so it's crazy how, I remember you telling me, because we had a broker that was looking for spaces, and we kept running into those issues. Man, they won't allow you to do this, or there's no HVAC, or the beams are way too close, or the ceiling height's way too low. It was always, one of those issues. And so you driving around and seeing a company move out,
right,
that were under a sublease, and then you reaching out to them, and us getting that deal done. It was all by the grace of God. And the fact that we were able to prove the concept at Landmark for those 4 years enabled us to step forth in here and not really miss a beat with our operation.
Right. And
so that was good.
And have our confidence built up.
Right. Of knowing that it was going to work.
And stepping into a monthly payment of $11,000 a month.
You love putting it
I got to say it because it brings it to reality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So going from 800 renting courts, then stepping up to 1,200, then 2,500, and then 11,000.
And that's 11,000 before bills.
Before
that's
bills,
straight.
Right. 11,000 down to move in,
right,
to get started, and then 11,000.
Right. And that didn't include the bill that we had some equipment, but still needed to invest in floors and different type of goals and all that. So, it was a big investment, and we had no angel investors, no NBA player, no shoe brand backing us. It was all us, and God, and allowing us to, have the vision, be consistent, and have the faith in order to make that move to be able to be here, to be where we are today. So,
and it's not, it didn't happen overnight.
It didn't. So so now that takes us to our present season. So we're now year 3 in this building, right? A lot of athletes still growing, teams are still moving in the right direction. So kind of explain like this season that we're in now, like this fall season where things kind of start to, somewhat simmer down, taper off a little bit because all the kids are back in school and, they're getting ready for their school season. So talk about, how we operate in this season to move forward for the next.
So I think that, with this is our third year, our third fall/winter season in this location. We really didn't have to be concerned before about a fall/winter season because we already knew ahead of time it tapers off. The business tapers off because the athletes are in school playing football and basketball.
Right.
So our growth in this building has grown, each year to where the fall and winter doesn't affect us as much as it did when we first moved in. So I like to say we've got our footing, we've got our foundation. The important thing is when you have a facility, you have to know your business to know your yearly flow. We know spring and summer is rocking. It tapers down in the fall. Winter, it tapers down. So it's a testament to our trainers, and to us, learning how to market, doing Google ads, uh, investing more money in marketing online in order to make up for the athletes that are actually going, leaving pretty much for this season and then coming back. So it's about learning how to manage the business and sustain the business during this time period. And each year, let's say for instance, our first year we went all the way down to only having, I think, about at our lowest point, like 26 to 28 members in our academy, which is not enough to really sustain the business month to month. So then that was the first year. Second year, we moved up to about 40 members. And, this time we have about 50 members. So the key is just retaining the academy and the athletes for this season.
That's good. And another thing that I want to really dive into is being okay with the slow period. I think, when you're in business, right, and I could be wrong, but this is my philosophy, but when you're in business, you want growth, growth, growth. You want nonstop traction, nonstop movement, nonstop, which is good, right? I mean, that shows that you're flourishing. However, I do believe that being in seasons of stillness, of rest, helps you be better for the next season, right? Because you think about it, if we're going, when do we have time to really sit down and figure out what are some steps we need to take in order to grow, right? I mean, we all experienced it, during COVID, during the pandemic, where, everybody was still, right? Everything was shut down. And then everybody came back. Well, most people came back with the statement of, oh, I feel refreshed, or I got new ideas, or I feel rejuvenated. Now I can do this, this, and that. There's times of that within our lives. There's seasons of that within our lives where things aren't so hectic, but what are you doing during that time? So I think that, we've done a great job of taking advantage of this period, coming up with new concepts. We just had a combine that was great. Coming up with new designs for merchandise, doing this show, right? Just figuring out different ways how to scale and grow, because this is a short amount of time. Right? These next 4 months, 5 months gonna go by like that, and then we're back into the high season. So having this downtime, I think, is a positive thing for all of us, and we have to be okay with that. We can't judge our business, and I can be like that. I can be like, man, I know, I'm like, man, what do we got to do, man? Why is the numbers dropping? Why is, And we have to come to grips with, no matter how spectacular or elite your operation is, there's going to come a time where it's just not popping, right? Just because of just the space that you're in. But what are you doing during that time, right? What are you investing during that time to help you sustain and also get ready for that big boom that's about to occur, once the new year hits?
And I think even for myself, I've learned you can't worry about things you can't control. And in business, and me, I'm the money guy that allowed that $11,000.
Yeah, you on it. Yeah, you be screaming it from the rafters.
You know what I mean? It comes quick. Them 30 days come quick.
When you writing that check out.
Exactly. So it's like, you can't worry. You got to know that God brought you this far and is not going to leave you or let you go and fall.
Right.
And so you have to rest and be assured in that, even if it's your business, if it's, you got your mortgage that's coming up, that's got to be paid.
Personal things,
different thing, your personal life, everything is, you can't worry about those things. You can only do the best you can, and then just leave it up to God and know, if you have faith, God is going to provide.
Right.
And that's the main thing.
Yeah.
God's always going to provide, and God has provided for us from our conception since we started. And I know that, it's just going to continue.
Yeah, it's good, man.
I have faith it's going to continue.
Faith is definitely the shield that we are protected by. But man, yeah, I'm excited about this season. I'm excited for our season of growth in the services and really locking in to get ready for what's about to happen. So it's a beautiful thing. You know, there's ups and downs with having your own facility, payroll, overhead, all these different things that are unseen and not so glamorous, but it's a part of the process. And I think we've done a good job of, you know, creating and riding that wave, you know, and not allowing it to crush us. So looking forward to this season and what we're about to embark upon.
And you know, just what you said in regards to um, this season and going to athletes' games. If you look back and think about before, we were always training. We got to train. We got to have the academies going. You know, we always have to. We didn't have time. We had time, but we just didn't make the time because we were just too focused on the academy and training and doing skills, which that's our core business. But now that we've progressed, we understand the value of our athletes seeing a coach at their game.
For sure.
At their school game, you know, watching them and giving them that support. So the good thing about having the downtime is that now we know that's important, and that's that's one of the
core
adjustments
values.
or core values we implemented.
Yeah, so we can really like lock in on our core values and making sure that those are tight. You know, meeting with our staff and, you know, meeting with the players, meeting with the parents, reviewing film, like all these different aspects that make us who we are, that helps the athlete get better and grow. We can really lock in on those values again during this time. So, you know, I'm excited, bro. It's a beautiful thing. We're going to just keep rocking and rolling. Okay?
Yeah.
Anything else?
That's it. That's all I got.
All right, brother. The community. Back at it.
Kingdom community.